Hello everyone, welcome to Nanotech YouTube channel. Today we are going to develop wet scrubbers which are normally used in industries where we have furnace smoke going out in the atmosphere. So these kind of scrubbers, wet scrubbers, can help us reduce the carbon elimination, reduce the carbon from the smoke and exhaust the clean air in the environment. So let's start with this. So this is our initial interface of Creo Parametric 9.0. So I will go to new solid part. I will uncheck this and I'll say OK. Then I will go to part MMNS solid ABS. And I'll say OK. So this is our initial interface of Creo Parametric. So let's start first with the revolve command. Okay, so I will first choose the line and I will draw a rough sketch here like this, and like this. So this one I can keep it as 500 millimeters. So the length I can keep it as 50. Okay, so as you can see from the image, the angle below here is little bit less than the angle above. So the above one we can keep it as 60 degree, and this one I can keep it as 120 degree. So this one I can still reduce to 115 in order to have a lesser angle. So I need to close this like this, and then I will draw a center line here like this, and I'll say OK. So you can see the bin is now revolved and this is fine. So I will click OK here. Now I need to make an extrude cut here. So for that I will go to extrude command. I will choose this center plane. I'll draw a rect circle here. This circle I can keep it as 250 millimeter. This one 250 millimeter, and I'll say OK. So now you can see this I can change manually, or I can add the values here, and I will remove material. So I'll say OK here. So you can see it is, the hole is created now. Now I need to make a shell inside, so I'll click here. This one thickness I will keep it as 3 millimeter, and I'll say OK. So this is now a complete shell from inside. Now I need to make another round here. So again I will select this plane. I'll go to extrude cut, and I will use a circle command here. So this one I'm not sure about the diameter of the fan, which we will create now later, but this I can roughly say 500 for now, and I'll just flip the direction because this one I wanted to have on the top, and I'll say OK. And this I can change manually, and I wanted to remove material, so I'll say OK. So now you can see it is a shell from inside, and the top hole and the bottom one is created just like our uh, this pin. So here the angle I would like to change, so I will modify this. I will edit dimensions. Okay, so this one I would like to keep a little bit lesser. Okay, 30 is way less, so I can change it to 50, or 55 should also be fine. sorry, 45 looks better. I'll say okay. I'll say okay. Okay. So now you can see this extrude cut. I need to edit now, and I'll edit these dimensions which I wanted to increase to roughly 500, and I'll say okay. So the other, this one I can change now, and I'll edit the dimensions and the diameter. I will say roughly 250 millimeters, and I'll say okay. Okay. So both circles are now fine. This one is slightly lesser than this one because here the fan will be attached later on. So what I need to do now, I need a flange here. As you can see from this detail, I need a flange here. So in order to make the flange, I will first go to the sketch command. I'll choose this plane. I'll say OK. So now I need another additional plane here. So first I will check the distance dimension from this plane till the edge of this one, and here I can double click. So this is 1460.28. So I'll cancel 1460.28. I can write in the calculator 1460.28 so I don't forget it later. Okay, so now I will add another plane. Starting from this plane, the direction will be flipped, and this I will keep at 1460.28. 1460.28. Okay, so this I can say minus, so it will be coming down here. So now I have another plane here, so I can do the flange work here. So again I will choose this plane, go for extrude cut, extruded, and I'll make a round circle, round flange here like this. So the diameter was 250. I wanted to keep the flange thickness as 50. So I can say this is 350. So the flange dimension would be 50 for us. Now, as you can see, I just wanted this depth to be 6 millimeters. And here I will change it to 50 millimeters. So I will have a flange here. You can see from this position, and I'll say okay. So now you see we have an additional flange here which will be connected to some other equipment that we will see later on. So now I need to make this inlet of the air, of the dirty air. So this one I wanted to prepare now. So let's start with this. For that I will choose any of these planes and I'll go for extrude command. Okay, before going to extrude command, I would like to have an additional plane here. So that will help us making this inlet. So I will go for this one. So the diameter, you know, it's 500, 1000, 1 meter. So this I can keep it as 600. So this is like 100 meters offset from the bin body. So this should be fine for us. Then I will use the extrude cut on this plane and I will make a rectangle here. You can see we have a clearance of roughly 200 or 250 from the bottom side. So I'll make it like this. So this one I can keep it as 400 and this one as 200. So it is exactly in the center. And this dimension I can check from this point to this point, and 200 should be fine. This length I can change to 500, and this looks fine. Okay. Okay. Or we can change it to 400 because 500 looks a little bit bigger. And I'll say okay. So now you can see this is like extruded up to the next surface, which is fine for us, but I don't want to go more inside. So I'll say to the next, and now it is exactly lying on the bin body. So here I will say thicken, and I will give it to 3 millimeters, which will be the thickness of the sheet, and I'll say okay. So now you can see this inlet is created. Now I just need to remove the material. So I'll again go for the extrude cut. So I will redraw a rectangle here. So this one was 400, sorry, 500, and this one was 400, and this one was exactly in the center, and from downside we were having a clearance of 200. So this I can say 200 clearance from the downside, and you can see it is exactly lying on the surface which we have created earlier. So I'll say okay. So now you see we need to remove the material. Okay. So the thickness, so the dimension of this hole I wanted to reduce a little bit. So at the moment I can say remove material, but I will change its definitions because it has reduced the size of the inlet. So here I can say edit dimensions, and this one now I can say 3 and 3, 3 millimeters on each side. So this should be 3, 394. So this will be half of 394. So 394 divided by 2. This one was 500, so again 494. Yeah. So from here I can say 203. So I'll say okay. And I'll say okay. Okay, this extrude cut we will again check this. Okay, so this is in the right direction, and removing the material, it should be fine now. Okay, so you can see now it is extrude cut, and you can see from inside. So this is now the cut has been prepared. Now again I need a flange here, so I'll be clicking here. I'll choose the extrude command here. Okay, so I'll cancel this one, and for extrude now I will keep this plane as the working plane, and I'll choose rectangle starting from here to here, and I'll say okay. So here I will keep the depth as 6 millimeter, which we are normally keeping for all our flanges. So this one I can say 50 millimeter, but will be extending outside. So I'll say okay here. So you can see the additional flange is created on the body here. So now As you can see, we have a flange here. The purpose of this flange is only to install it easily on site. So I will make a flange here. So for that, I will choose this plane and I will draw an additional plane here. So this I can change like this, and roughly 250 I can say should be fine. So here I have another additional flange, additional plane. So I'll go for extrude cut. Then I need a circle here in the round in the center. So this dimension I can keep it as the hole is 1000, so I'll say 1100. So the thickness, the width of my flange would be 50 on each side. So this I can say okay, and now I will keep the depth. So one flange is 6 millimeters, two flanges would be 12 millimeter, and the thickness here I can say 50 for each flange, and this should be fine. So you can see an additional flange has been added here, which has the only purpose of this flange is the easy installation of our bin. Now you can see we have another flange on the top which will be matching with the fan flange, the flange of the fan. So I would like to make an additional flange here. So for that I'll go again to the sketch command. I'll choose any of these planes. I just wanted to know the height of it. So I'll go for dimension from this point to this plane. So this is roughly 1210.34. 1210.34. I will write here so I don't forget it later. So I'll cancel this. Now from this plane I need an additional plane which will be offset as at 1210.34. 1210.34, and I'll say okay. So you can see an additional plane is created here. So I'll go for extrude command because I need to make a flange here. Again a circle starting from center. So this hole we were keeping it as 400 in the beginning. So now we will say 500. Oh sorry, it was 500. So now we will say 600. So 50 millimeters on each side for the flange, and I'll say okay. So here you can see the depth. I will keep it as 6 millimeter, which we are normally keeping for all the flanges here. So this one I'll say 50 millimeter. So this is actually fine because okay. Okay, so it's not matching with the center, so uh, I'll reduce the size of this flange again here. Edit dimensions. Okay, so this one I'll make it 500 and I'll say okay. So the rest is all fine. The flange is outside and I'll say okay. So this is now done. Okay, so the top flange is created now. Now as you can see from the picture, I need to make these two inlets. This is only an inspection window, which is not very mandatory. I mean, but we will see if we need to draw it later or not. So I will go for these two inlets, outlets. Basically, these are inlets for water. So in order to make those inlets, you can see from the figure, they are on the opposite side of the dirt air, the non-cleaned air. So I will choose. So first I need an additional plane here. So I'll say plane. This one at 600 millimeter, same like the inlet, and I'll say okay. Now we will be doing the same thing from this point. So again, I will prepare two rectangles here, like this and like this. So now I wanted to know the dimension here. 100, this one as 150 or 160 should also be fine. This one as okay. So this one 200 should be okay, and this one 150 should be fine. So that's all, huh? So now we wanted to make an extrude command here. So I will just simply flip the direction. I will remove the material. No, we will not. And we will choose to the next. Through all. Okay. Okay. So this one I can say to the reference, and this will be my reference, and I'll say okay. So you can see it is not extending from inside, but it is actually connecting to the body of the bin. For extrude command, and we will prepare the rectangle here, starting from here till okay, starting from somewhere here to here, then again another one starting from here to here. So this one I can say 994 because 3 millimeters on each side, and this dimension I can change from this point to this point. So this will be 994 divided by 2. So this is exactly lying in the center. So similarly here, this one was 200, so I wanted to keep it as 194. In order to bring it into the center, I will keep it as 3 millimeters. So this is 3 millimeters on each side. Again, I will make the same for this one, 994, like this, and the dimension from center till this point will be okay. So this is a fine, and this one I will keep it as 144, like this, and from here till this point this will be 3 millimeter. So this is exactly in the center. Now I'll say okay, and I'll flip the direction of both cuts, and I will remove the material. So you can see the inlets are created, and that's how we were trying to make this one. So here you can see there is a small gap coming because it is through. So I will keep it as until the next to the reference, and this will be our reference. By this way we will not be having those holes, and I'll say okay. So you can see it is cut and extruded now. So 200, yes. So now again I need to make flanges here as it was shown in our drawing. So I will choose these edges, and I'll say extrude. Okay. So here I will make flange type geometry like this and like this. So 50 millimeters on each side. So this was 1000. So I'll say 1100. And this was 200. So I'll say 300. Again, I need to center it from this point to this point, which will be 50. And I wanted to make it center from this point to this point. That would be also be 50. So this is done now. Now I wanted to make sure this one is also fine. So for this one, I will keep this whole dimension as 1100. And these are two constraints, so this is almost same. So from this point to this point, I will keep it as 50 millimeter, and this one I'll change to 250. So I'm now having flanges each of 50 millimeters. From here also you can see these flanges are here. So I'll say okay. So now you can see I just wanted to go deeper, like 6 millimeter should be fine, and sheet thickness I can change to 50 millimeters each, and I'll say okay. So that's how the two flanges are in place. Now what I can do, I can create okay, the outer plates we can leave at the moment because this is closed from these sides, and the body is almost prepared. Now we need to make some supports. You can see from here we need at least 3 supports here. So we will make one and then we will pattern it. So in order to make the supports, yes. So what we can do, we can create a support pattern here. We can prepare it like this, or we can make another one as as per our requirement. So let's start with this one. So I'll choose again this plane and I'll go for extrude command. Then I will make a U here. Let's see if we have something in the patterns, in the palettes. Okay, so we have some profiles here. So I think I can use the C profile and I can bring it down here and I'll close it. So here I can just change it. Okay, so here I can change the dimensions. I can change the dimensions later. So first I will make it center from this to this. Okay, again this one and this one. I can say 0, so it is lying exactly onto it. Okay, so this one I can change to 250 millimeters, and this one to 250 millimeters. Still 250 is too much, so we can say 200 should be fine. So the intermediate distance, or this one, we can change to 50, and this one we can change to 50. So this looks better. Now we need to bring it down. So I'll say from this point to this point, I will keep it as 100 should be more than enough. So this one I can still reduce to 150 because this is a normal support and it should not be that much bigger. Okay, so this looks fine. Now I'll say OK. So you can see this one I can change from here to next, and I'll say OK. So still this profile is too big. Let's see if we can just modify the dimensions of it just to make it a little bit smaller. So 25. So this one 100, and this one also 25, and the overall, this one we can reduce to 150. So this looks better now. I'll say OK, and I'll say OK. So the support is created now. Now I'll choose this plane, and I will use the extrude cut. It's not a cut, but I will do the extension here. So I will again use the rectangle, and this is our support. You can see starting from this point, so I can say roughly like this. Support should be fine for us. Let's say 50 by 100. So I'll say OK. So you can see the support is created now. I will change it roughly to 900 millimeters. That should be fine, and I'll say OK. So now I need a base plate here. So again I'll choose this plane, and I'll say extrude cut, extrude command. So this is where the base plate is. So let me zoom in here. So this is actually the, so yes, so this is our point where the rectangle is. So I can say roughly from here till here. So this can be our base plate. So you can see from here as well, this looks fine. The height, I can say 8 millimeter should be enough, and you can see it is lying almost in the center, but this is still fine. This will be the base plate, and I'll say OK. So if you wanted to change the dimensions, like I see we don't have much space for the holes here, so I can say edit dimensions. So I will extend this to uh, 200 or 230, and from the center I will try to keep it in center. So 230 for hole, so 115 for one side, and I'll say OK and OK. So now you can see, again, if you wanted to edit it, I mean if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can go to the edit, and this one also you can modify to 80, and I'll say OK. So now you can see it is exactly in the center. So now you can select this face, again extrude command, and I'll say, so this is the outer edge, and this is the inner edge, this is the outer. So here you can say 2 holes of M12 should be fine, or M14 is also fine, and I'll say OK. I'll just flip the direction, and I will remove material. So the same thing you can simply mirror along this axis. So you will have another hole here, and I'll say okay. So in this way you can prepare these supports. Now what I need to do, I would like to have two more supports like this. So I will simply click this one. I'll simply click this one, this one, and this one. So I will do pattern, geometric pattern. From here I can say axis, and this will be my axis. So I wanted it to be in the angular extent, and the number of members I'll keep 3 only. So in this way, two of the supports will be coming here and it will not be disturbed. Okay. So now you can see 3 supports are in place, and that's what we were trying to create here. So this is the second time I'm preparing this model. So let me quickly save it. If in case I will lost this data, so this model should not be lost. So that's how we prepare the wet scrubber. So once the scrubber is created, I have added one low pressure fan above it, and the flange is matching with the flange of the low pressure fan, and I have added this additional water pump here. So that's how the assembly of a wet scrubber will be completed. So this is the inlet of the dirt air. This will be connected through piping, and there will be a hood from where you will be getting your fumes. All the fumes will be collected into that hopper, and from the pipe it will go and insert here. So the dirt air will enter into this chamber, and after entering here, because of the low pressure fan, the dirt will move upward, and there will be filters here. So if the dirt is too much, if it is dense, you can use two filters here, and if the dust is not that much dense, you can use only single filter here, and those filters would be removable. So after some time, like in a month or two, you can open it and you can replace those filters, and the fresh air will be coming out of this outlet of the low pressure fan. Here I have an additional water pump here. So this will be connected to one or two filters, and the fresh water will be connected to this pump. So in this case, the fresh water will be coming here, and it will keep your filters wet, and it will help you generate the most cleaned air out of this low pressure fan. There is another thing which you can do for recirculation. You can prepare a tub of steel below, and you can make a partition there. So once the dirty water is coming and falling down, it will be collected here in one side of the tank, and the heavier particles will be settling down. So the fresh water will be coming into the other chamber, which would be more or less, you can say, clean water. Then for this pump connection, you don't need to give a fresh water connection. You can simply connect this pump through the tank where the water is cleaned, slightly cleaner than the one which is here. So in this way you can save the water as well, and you can use the similar water which you are using for cleaning the air. You can use the same water for recirculation and keep your filters wet. So that's how a wet scrubber works, and I hope you like this video. Please like, share, and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you so much.